What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another pre-recorded interview with Noah, of course. He was on the channel before. He's back at it again. This is gonna be Thursday's pre-recorded video just because I will be away in Dallas for a trip. So you guys will get that today, and then of course tomorrow we'll have Franchise Friday, and then hopefully we will have some EA college football stuff to talk about on Monday when we come back as well. But we're just going to go ahead and get started with this interview. Number one, our first question of the day is the reaction to the spring game in general, like the crowd, for example. What you liked, what you didn't like about the offense, defense, and special teams. Just talk about the spring game for a little bit.
Yeah, so obviously, 72,000 plus fans. Definitely a lot of energy in the stadium. When I was there, a lot of energy around the stadium. Everyone seems to be, fully bought into to Coach Debo, and giving him a shot. And we're excited, and it looks like everyone's behind him, players included, coaching staff, fans. When it comes to things I liked about A-Day, I think when it comes to an offensive standpoint, there were a lot of obviously they weren't even a tenth of the way into the playbook during the spring game. But you see things like all these pre-snap motions with receivers that we didn't see last year. They came out in two running backs for the first play, which is something we didn't see last year very much. So a lot of new schematic things. But when it comes to individual players, I was impressed by Milrow. Obviously, he was 3 for 9, but that includes 4 drops by his receivers. His throwing motion looks much improved. He looks like he's grasping the offense well for it just being the spring. And then, the weapons, Bernard looked great. A lot of guys, obviously, he didn't make that much of an impact, but you can just tell from a physical standpoint that Caleb Odom's going to be a guy this year that really emerges. And, obviously the running back room, Richard Young, Justice Haynes, and Jamarian Miller. It's like a three-headed horse back there. Defensively, the front seven is definitely what catches your eye. You got returning linebackers and Deontay Lawson and Jahad Campbell with Jeremiah Alexander and Justin Jefferson right behind him. And then you got a lot of depth on the defensive line. That's one of the things that Alabama's defense has this year. When you look at a secondary, there's a lot of talent, but it's a lot of inexperienced talent. Um, Obviously, you have a guy like Red Morgan, and a guy like Xavier Brown, who are both playing a lot of meaningful reps right now. Then you got guys like Zay Mincy, so Jalen Mbakwe. So a lot of talent back there, just a lot of inexperience, which Alabama so far has done a decent job addressing in the portal.
Yeah, that leads us to our next question, of course, is the spring transfer window and just the transfer portal in general. I know y'all had two very important additions, aka that kicker from Illinois, I believe is what it was, or Wisconsin or something like that. And
Miami,
then,
Ohio. Yeah.
yeah, it was up there. I know that. And then the center leaving, but you also gained another offensive lineman. Just talk about what additions you guys have made to the transfer portal and how they can be a big impact going on next year as well.
Yeah, so you lose Will Riker, you replace him with the guy who won the Lou Groza Award over him last year, and Graham Nicholson out of Miami, Ohio, very talented kicker. Then you bring back Caden Proctor, which that's a whole story for another day. And then you lose a guy like James Brockermeyer to the portal, but Parker Brailsford's there for a reason. He was a part of the best offensive line unit last year, the Joe Moore Award-winning Huskies offensive line, one of the best centers in the country. I'm definitely going to have to put a little bit of weight on, but I have high expectations for what Brailsford brings. Very smart guy, knows the offense, uses his size, his undersize as an advantage to him with the leverage and getting low. I mean, you bring in a guy like Deshaun Jones, cornerback out of Wake Forest, a little bit of experience in the secondary. He's played 3 years of college ball, started 2 years, has 2 years left of eligibility, and you're in a good position with a guy like King Mack, safety out of Penn State, and then offensive line wise, Gino Vandemark out of Michigan State, former offensive line coach and current Alabama offensive line coach. Coach Cap was his offensive line coach over at Michigan State. Definitely a connection there, and would be a huge addition. Sit in a great spot with both Vandemark and King Mac right now.
Yeah, our next question, of course, is leading right into that part. or part of the spring transfer window, it kind of like goes on with that is why are so many players leaving Alabama, especially during this spring window? I've seen a lot of players like kind of going off and on about it. Like, I don't know what it is, but there have been certainly a few notable players who have left the portal. Talk about why they are leaving the port and entering the transfer portal at Alabama.
Are you talking about football or basketball?
Well, just both in general.
All right, so I'll start with football. Football, you got your guys leaving like Curtis Perry, who's probably not going to see the field as much as he would like. It's just one of those things. Every spring, Alabama has guys leave that feel that they would be more successful somewhere else because of playing time, feel like they're getting buried in the depth chart in Tuscaloosa. So that just happens every spring. I will say, I think Coach DeBoer and the staff has done a pretty solid job keeping guys in place. Obviously, the loss of Peyton Woodyard is not what you want, but it's something that the staff kind of felt coming. So they had a replacement in store, getting the safety out of University of Charlotte. So that kind of stuff just happens. And then when you go over to the basketball side of things, I think a great argument is made that Alabama improved their overall roster from last year. Transfer portals just, in basketball, it's gotten insane. Guys are just leaving for
Money.
money, opportunities, stuff like that. So Rylan Griffin was a guy that not many expected to leave, but the staff did. There were talks during the season that he might transfer out after the year, and obviously ended up landing at Kansas. But then you bring in guys like LeBaron Fillon. You bring in three other talented freshmen in Darian Reed, Aiden Sherrill, and Nas Cunningham. And then you get your transfers, Houston Millette, Chris Youngblood, Cliff Omari. So it it balances itself out. So I think Oates kind of expected a pretty big roster turnover. And unlike last year, he was more prepared for it this year and really attacked the portal and ended up being more of a positive than a negative.
Yeah, that you speak of Liberian Philon. He is from where I live,
Yeah,
Mobile,
from Mobile.
Alabama. Yeah,
Yeah.
talk about the impact that he will have on the roster when he starts as a freshman at Alabama, if he does.
Right. Right. So, he's a three-level scorer. At Alabama, he'll be a two-level scorer because Nate Oates doesn't really like the mid-range. But he is about 6'3", listed at 6'4", but I believe he's about 6'3". He can get to the hoop. He can drive. He has good control of his body. And he also shoots the three really well. I believe he shot over 40% this year from three, playing in a really competitive league. So he was single-handedly beat Aiden Sherrill and Darian Reed's team this year in the Chipotle Nationals. So he's just an elite scorer. He has a lot of length too, a lot of sneaky length that you wouldn't expect. 6'3" guy who can develop into a pretty decent defender if you put him on a opposing team's guard. So definitely a good matchup for us. Quick, despite being so big for a guard, and can also play defense. So definitely a good scheme fit. And I think whether he's, a six-man kind of guy or in the starting role kind of guy, depending on what Mark Sears does, I think he's going to make an impact for Alabama instantly.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm glad he stayed in state, by the way. I didn't not like him like committing to Kansas
Well,
earlier.
what
And
what was interesting is Alabama originally didn't even pursue him because
well, yeah,
they,
he was committed to Auburn
yeah,
first.
yeah, Alabama was like, pass. He's not a take for us. We're not going to recruit him. He didn't really like that very much. So he ended up, committing to Auburn, then committing to Kansas. And
Mhm.
then there was some stuff going on at Kansas and he felt uncertain. As soon as he requested that release from his letter of intent, Oates and the staff hopped on it, had a great senior year this year, and um, ended up making Oates and staff pursue.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so we're gonna go on to our next question, of course, is going to be the reaction. What is your reaction to Aiden Holloway, another Auburn transfer, at least in the portal, signing with Alabama? Is he a good fit for Alabama, and why is he a good fit for them?
Yeah, I think he's a good fit for Alabama. I think that he lost his confidence last year. As you see, he started off the season, incredible, making lots of threes. Great shooter in high school as well. Um, he lost his way a little bit last year, and I think that he is looking for a place that a coach with confidence in his three ball. And I think this the NATO system is a system that he'd be very comfortable in and developing him. I don't think he's a 1 year guy. I think he stays at Alabama for at least 2 years. I don't think he's kind of a one and done player. I think he's going to play meaningful minutes next year. And I think Oates is going to definitely improve his game. I think his shooting will get better. People forget, I mean, he and Ryland's 3-point percentage are very, very similar from their freshman year. And Ryland also struggled with those things. But the difference is, Ryland's a lot taller. Aiden can handle the ball a little bit better. But shooting wise, it was a pretty similar performance freshman year from them. So I'm definitely interested. I'm not going to say he's going to be outstanding in a system. I definitely think there's a lot of potential for him in a system like Oates runs.
Yeah, that leads us to our final basketball question, at least. What is the deal with Mark Sears? Will he come back or will he go to the draft? What are your predictions for Mark Sears this
Yeah.
upcoming year?
It's gone back and forth within the program. There's been a lot of confidence he stays, a lot of confidence he goes, and then it's back and forth. Right now, I think it's kind of 50-50. Obviously, he has a pretty big NIL offer on the table if he decides to come back. And obviously, he is going through the draft process. He's going to the combine. He's doing all these pre-draft workouts with teams and visits. Just kind of getting evaluated. I haven't seen him in any mock drafts. I think the highest I saw him was like one of the last picks, and beyond that, it was undrafted. I think regardless, I think Sears, if he next year to get drafted, he would have to have an even better year or the same year, which is hard to do, harder than some people realize to have that same caliber year 2 years in a row, which he can obviously do, but there's just going to be more mouths to feed this year. But um, I think if I had to make a prediction on it, I think he comes back. I think that, he loves the University of Alabama, has a pretty good deal on the table. And I think, there's, I don't think he's in a rush. I think that, he could be in the exact same position next year to where G League is his way up, or he could be one of the last picks, which usually still means G League is your way up. So I could see him. I see him returning. It's a pretty hefty NIL offer from people I've spoke to, and I'm not super confident he comes back, but if I had to make a pick today, that would be what I say.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that one. He needs to come back. If he comes back, Alabama's going to be a top 10 preseason team for sure. Just like the way Auburn will next year too. But yeah, one final question before we let kick you loose. Of course, this week all the talk's probably going to be about EA college football. Where's your hype level for that? Are you excited? Are you not excited? And are you going to play the game?
I'm definitely going to play the game. This is a game I've been looking forward to since they stopped releasing in 2014. I actually have that game somewhere in my room right now. Uh,
Nice.
but uh, but yeah, I'm excited. They're putting a lot of detail into the game when it comes to, the tradition of college football, and all this different stuff. And I'm very excited to play it. I think they've been working on it for years. All these announcers, including Chris Fowler, have been doing these voice recordings for years on years. And it's exciting, man. They've gotten down to the details, the little tiny little things that'll make the game so much better. And I mean, you're gonna have fans in Neyland singing Rocky Top. You're gonna have Enter Sandman at Virginia Tech. You're gonna have the whiteout at Penn State. I mean, it's gonna be, and especially with
Every time Florida State gets a first down.
every every time they get 2 yards.
Yeah, for real.
But no, I'm excited. I'm excited, man. And in with the increased graphics in the past 10 years, I think it's gonna look really realistic too. So I'm excited for it. Definitely gonna get it as soon as it comes out. Probably gonna pre-order it.
Yeah, me too.
Are they releasing the one of the trailers this week or something?
They're supposed at the time, not today, obviously, the time we're recording this, but next Thursday is when it's reportedly dropping. It said mid-May, so a lot of people are speculating that's going to be the time they're seeing this video, or obviously tomorrow or the weekend. So yeah, it's definitely coming next week slash this week. I'm very excited. I just want the full reveal already so we can go ahead and pre-order it. Take those PTO times in, of course.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited for it, man. it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a game that I play for the next few years, just without.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then next year, I think they're actually going to have coaches in there, which is going to be like
Mhm.
very exciting.
They're going to add. I think next year they'll add FCS teams too, so that'll be
Yeah.
pretty cool also.
We could start building up with like D2 and D1 or
Yeah.
D3 schools,
There we go. There
getting
we
them
go.
in the college football playoffs.
There we go. That'll be fun. I'm
But
excited.
yeah, I'm interested to see though the Iron Bowl, how that's gonna be very fun to play as. All those rivalry games are gonna be pretty cool.
They're going to be awesome. I'm
Yeah.
excited. Primetime games on there. It's going to be fun.
And with Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC, it's going to be very interesting too, as well, seeing that for the first time in the game, since we will be able to see it for the first time on the field.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be fun. I'm
Oh
excited.
yeah. Well, I appreciate it. It's probably we're gonna cut it loose. It's probably about 10 minutes or so, which is probably a good time, but appreciate it. And I will see you all in the next video.